Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here once again with another video on The Flash Season 7. So this week marks the halfway point of our journey through The Flash's 7th season, and this week's episode in particular will be the beginning, I guess you could say, of the conclusion of the current storyline involving all of those new forces and the Speed Force and all of that. Which of course will be pretty damn interesting for a couple of reasons, with the main reason seeing just how the back half of the season is potentially set up and whether the current storyline involving all the forces is a connection or possibly a cause. Sometimes they're connected, storylines connect to one another, and sometimes they're completely unrelated, or they connect at a much later point in the season. Like last season was season 6, there's no real major connection with Bloodwork and the Mirror Master stuff until later in the season. So, or like, halfway through that storyline with Mirror Master and, Bloodwork's blood and all of that. So there could be minor connections similar to that, or there could be none, or there could be like major connections where it literally sets it up and everything like that. So it'd be interesting to see how it all ends and how the next one begins. Now in this video, we are going to go over a few things that have come out over the past few days to a week in relation to future episodes in this Force storyline. So I'll go through all of those, but of course throughout the video, be sure to let me know your various opinions, thoughts, theories, all of that in the comment section down below. I'm always curious to read them. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're looking forward to what's coming, why not drop a like on it to show support for the video and the channel and just the show in general. But first up, this new trailer came out. It was labeled a season trailer. So yeah, let's watch and we'll talk about it when it's done.
I believe in this city. Its resilience. Most of all, its people. That's how we'll survive this.
There's as much beauty in this life as there is pain. You just have to look for it.
If you ever need help, just call. I'll come running.
I don't know why, but I feel like I can trust you.
I mean, we are like the Power Rangers of forensic science.
Usually we have to kiss first to make the ground shake.
I think we just time traveled.
Well, that's not gonna be good, but great TV. Apparently there's danger in Central City.
Apparently.
Different can't be cured. We're here to stay.
Look at the man you grew up to be. Kind, good. So lead with love.
I'm always gonna have your back, no matter what. I won't let fear control me.
It's a good day's work, people.
So yeah, that trailer, as I said, was labeled as a season trailer. So it featured stuff from previously in the season, from earlier episodes. Well, I think once we got past episode 3. So previous in this storyline with the Force and stuff, as well as some footage and stuff that we haven't seen as well, so from future episodes. The main thing that caught my eye as new stuff from that trailer was the footage revolving around the original or timeless Wells living up in his house, looking to sit back and potentially binge watch some television. That's what it looked like he was doing at least. But of course, this is interrupted when Barry comes speeding in. So this is from this week's upcoming episode called Timeless, where Barry goes to original Timeless Wells for help. Of course, we just had the Speed Force break bad, if you want to call it, or expose themselves, not in the weird way, but just expose their motives, if you want to call it, in the previous episode. So Barry is going to need some help with solving all that. Now, seeing that if Barry tries to stop the Speed Force, logically you would think the Speed Force would just cut off, or just cut Barry's connection to the Speed Force off in general, or at the very least make it a much weaker connection. So instead of 4-bar connection to the Speed Force, Barry's running off half a bar at best. So it's very, very weak. So you have to think logically that happens. I don't know why the Speed Force would just allow Barry to keep going at full speed and potentially stop them. Now, in regards to the Wells stuff, you'd have to assume that Barry time travels, because we know that this Wells has gone back and is living his life over with his wife over and over and over again, just pretty much in a constant loop, trying to spend as much time as he possibly can with her. So I'd have to assume Barry's time traveling. I guess it matters whether it's to pretty much the starting point when Wells goes back or later on. That's for us to wait and find out, but we should be expecting some time travel from Barry, but that's for us to wait and find out. Now, in regards to what Wells is able to do to, assist or help Barry, As we saw in the like official episode trailer for this upcoming week's episode, we could see Barry picking up the tachyon device in the footage there, or at least a very similar looking contraption. So we could assume that it could be used in this week's episode. But as we see in that new season trailer we just watched earlier in the video that came out, we can actually see Barry wearing the tachyon device. Like, you can see like the top part of it like connecting to like around his shoulder area. Now, I do wonder whether this will be used to give Barry some speed that exists outside of the Speed Force's control, or whether this is to maybe stop the Speed Force having an influence on Barry. Maybe it can do that. Maybe Wells is able to, tinker with it with Cisco's help to make it do that. I am just intrigued to see what they do with it, because the Speed Force could potentially be one of the more difficult threats that Barry has had to go up against, just due to his relation to it all and its sort of control over Barry. So it's like an enemy that Barry, like, overall has weaknesses, but Barry can't penetrate those weaknesses just due to the Speed Force's control on him. It's a difficult one. I'm just intrigued to see how they handle it, and hopefully it makes sense, because there's a good chance it potentially might not make sense. I'm pretty much thinking that it's going to be up to the other Force holders of like Dion Owens, Alexa or Faweza and Psyche to help or be the ones just to take down the Speed Force, and Barry just sort of leads them without actually doing too much with his own powers. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, in particular with the Wells stuff, one of the big questions that's coming out is, when is the last episode with Wells? Obviously, we know that Tom Cavanaugh is leaving the show, at least in regards to a consistent basis. He might show up for one or two episodes later down the track, whether it's next season or whatever, but like he's leaving the show as like, a credited cast member regularly. So when's the last episode with him? Is it this week's episode with episode 9, or will he show up here and there throughout this season? I don't know. It seems based off Tom Cavanaugh's Instagram that he hasn't consistently been in Vancouver where they filmed the show. So he won't just return to the present day for the rest of the season after this week. But maybe he could return some at points throughout the season when he is needed. Or maybe this week or episode 10 or episode 11 is where it ends. Maybe they just use him here when it's needed and that's it. It's hard to tell what they're going to do. I would be surprised if he's not in like the final episode of this season. I think they'd try to use him there, unless it works more to say goodbye to the character at some point earlier in the season, whether it is this week's upcoming episode or like episode 12, 13 or 14, somewhere around there. Maybe it works to say goodbye to the character there rather than the season 7 finale, which is episode 18. It's up to the writers. I'm sure they'll figure out where's the best place to say goodbye to the character. But at this point, we don't know when exactly is the last, proper appearance of the character for now. So I don't know, we'll have to wait and find out. But next up, there are some promo images for this week's episode. There's just some images of Team Citizen, not really doing much, but they're together and they will be investigating. I think it's Kristen Kramer for this episode. I'm not 100% sure on that. But that's what I would put my money on, that they're investigating her because Iris wasn't done with her. And I think they said that character's not done for, despite what the last episode and like her saying goodbye to Joe sort of insinuated that was it for her. I'm pretty sure she shows up again. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they're investigating Kristen Kramer, or at least she's involved in this episode in some way. So they might not be investigating her, but she's just involved in it. We'll have to wait and find out. There is a picture of here of Barry. It's the only Barry one in the promo images, and I'm pretty sure this is him, in the Wells house, like we saw in the trailer. At first I wasn't too sure, but then that trailer came out and I was like, okay, well that's where it's like set. So yeah. And finally, to end off the video, we do actually have the synopsis or description for episode 11, which is the conclusion to this Speed Force or the Force's storyline. This episode is called Family Matters Part 2. So episode 10 will be Part 1. So we have a good 2-part storyline finale thing, or quote unquote finale, for this story. So that's exciting. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But here is the synopsis. Barry and Iris come together to try and stop a dangerous force from destroying Central City. So yeah, it's very short, which usually means they don't want to really reveal too much. It only mentions Barry and Iris, so who knows what's happening with the other characters. Sometimes they don't include them just for spoiler's sake, and even then, just including Barry and Iris doesn't really tell us too much. But in regards to Barry and Iris, when it says come together, I do wonder whether it's their stories, and maybe stuff that they do with Iris in episode 9 and 10 then leads into what happens in 11. So maybe there's some developments or revelations through what Iris is doing in these upcoming 2 episodes that then connects back to this storyline and makes it make sense, or just everything comes together. I think we know from set photos that there's a run-in between Iris and it might be the rest of Team Citizen and Psyche. So maybe that's the storyline that connects to. So maybe they're able to make Psyche not be so evil, you know, maybe help. Maybe that's where Iris gets involved in that story, and then that's how it comes together. I'm not too sure, but that's what I would assume it means when it says Barry and Iris come together, because unless Iris still has those mirror powers, which I think they said that they got rid of, so I don't know what she would be doing, like physically at least. But in regards to the dangerous force, I'd have to assume this is the forever force, which is what it is in the comics when all the forces come together and one person sort of can use them all. And that is what the Speed Force is trying to do pretty much. And I think by the sounds of it, maybe at the end of part 1 of like episode, you know, so at the end of Family Matters part 1, which is the end of episode 10, maybe the Speed Force gains all the powers or something like that. And then it will require all the other forces to come together. Maybe they don't lose them. It's just that the Speed Force gets like access to them and they have to team together and take her down. Could be a bit of like a Power Rangers moment. So, or like a Captain Planet. I don't know. I have to wait and see how it rolls and how it goes. It could be a bit weird. Especially if she has control over them all, then technically wouldn't she be able to, or just them, you know, Nora, wouldn't they be able to like sort of dumb down or dim down everyone else's abilities? So we'll have to wait and see how it's explained. At least with Barry, his powers should be affected. Maybe the other ones aren't affected if she's able to tap into them, because maybe she doesn't have full control. But at least with Barry, he's a bit screwed. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, looking forward to it. And also just with what happens with the Forever Force and stuff in the comics, it could lead into what's happening in the back half, or this could just be its own self-contained story. But as we were saying earlier in the video, it will be interesting to see whether there's any connections straight away, or maybe even down the track, or it is just, as I said, just then this like self-contained story with the Speed Force and all the other forces. That's for us to wait and find out. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on all this. Any theories, let me know all of them down there in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.